Hi, guys. We are talking with Dr. Carter Stout. That's Carder Stout. Um, and I really enjoyed this fascinating interview. Your story is amazing. I'll just go over a little bit of it real quick. You grew up on the East Coast. You sounded very familiar to my growing up. I love the Grateful Dead. I used to follow them and the Jerry Garcia band.
Yeah.
Uh, Later in life, when I got sober, I looked back at that and I realized I kind of had a weird value system because I don't really remember much of the shows. I spent the majority of my time trying to get loaded or, meet people or like, so it was an interesting time in my life, but I'm pretty sure you and I could trade some stories about that.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was in Virginia. I saw a lot of Jerry. I was a big Jerry fan,
Yeah.
and I love the Dead, but it was just so big. I used to get lost in those shows, and
Yeah.
saw a few shows in Las Vegas, which is an entire culture of its own.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
you talked nicely about that. And then you ended up in LA,
I did.
and you ended up helping a fairly predominant drug dealer with his business. He adopted you, and his family, his grandma adopted you, and they ended up helping you get sober, and
We did.
exposing you to a complete lifestyle, which is fascinating. It has been fascinating to Hollywood and people forever about how people uh, uh, live in that space. And you got a front row seat, literally front row
Yes.
seat to this whole thing. And if you're watching on YouTube, you Dr. Carter does not look like he should be in Compton, or he should be driving a drug dealer around in this area. So that visual alone is very interesting. Um, I was struck by your relationship with Flynn and with Beatrice.
Yes. Beatrice.
And I was struck by the fact that you said as you started to hang out with this family, that your desire to use started to diminish, and you felt a kinship with these guys. You felt taken care of. You felt seen by this family. And maybe you could just talk a little bit about that exchange of how the desire to escape was now being replaced by this connection that you had with his family.
Yeah. Well, I think as a psychologist now and working with patients who struggle with all different types of addictions, I've become acutely aware that most of our belief system happens early on in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we form our opinions of ourselves. And for most of us, experience emotional trauma for the first time. And for me and for many others, I think addiction is driven by that unhealed emotional trauma that we experience. And in my life, it was really having parents who were absent. And I was close to my brother, Craig, who was we were about 15 months apart. But my parents were really not available in the way that I needed them to be, with a kind of love and sort of attention. And I felt abandoned and I felt neglected emotionally. I didn't really realize that until later in life. So I had been searching for a long time to feel that real sense of family.
Right.
And
Not knowing that you were actually looking for that. You just
not really knowing,
yeah.
but knowing that there was a hole inside of my heart. And when I met Flynn and Beatrice, they really were people that, because of their values and because of their sense of family and because of the experiences that they'd had, they really were able to bring me into their life and accept me and love me in a way that that had been absent for me earlier in my life. And that was just so essential to me beginning to change my belief system about who I was and who I'd become, and give me some hope and give me some faith and give me some strength. in
Wow.
order to try to stop hurting myself and stop killing myself and being so self-destructive.
Um, I did they ever look at you like, hey man, you need to clean up your act? Did they ever call you flat out on that? Or did they kind of
Flynn
give,
did.
yeah,
Flynn
Flynn did.
did. Yeah, he said, "Why are you doing that? Doesn't seem like it makes you feel good.
Mm.
Why are you?" Because he would see me when I was hearing voices, and it made him uncomfortable. Why are you hurting? Why are you doing that to yourself? Why are you? People's experience with cocaine is very different.
Yeah,
For me, as a longtime user, I had, the chemistry in my brain had changed, and it wasn't creating kind of a euphoric experience anymore. It was more fear-based and more psychosis-based.
sure. And that's that gates of insanity they talk about where you don't come back from that change. You don't regenerate.
Right.
Yeah. And it's remarkable. I mean, we didn't talk a lot about your journey from that particular panhandling and, using cocaine to being a doctor, but maybe real quick, you could just give me a quick, so you get sober and now
Got sober.
you got a family of your own, you're writing books, you're a doctor, you're helping people heal. Like
That's true.
that's a pretty crazy story in itself.
It is, and I have to say, without patting myself on the back too much, that I am very proud that I have, and I feel very fortunate as
Mm,
well,
yeah, yeah,
because I lost a lot of people along the way. And why did I survive it all, and with my mental faculties intact, and others didn't? I don't have the answers to that, but I did leave LA after this experience with Flynn and Beatrice, and I moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico.
okay,
And
gorgeous.
I entered into, I worked 3 jobs and took out student loans, and I went back to school. I knew that returning back to LA just wasn't a safe place for me. It got scary at the end of the story with Flynn. I didn't really talk about that, but I narrowly got out of there, and I knew that I had to leave LA for a while, and I did, and I had this feeling inside of me that I just, that part of what was driving my addiction, and had for so long, was that I lacked a sense of purpose, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing with my life, or how I was fitting into the greater narrative of other people's lives. And so going back to school really was this answer for me. And I ended up spending the next 10 years of my life in school. And I worked the entire time, had no help from my family, and really sacrificing a lot for education. It changed my whole perspective on everything. And I knew that through my own experiences and my own struggles, that ultimately I would be in a position that I could help others.
Yeah,
And
that's
and
the
that is really,
purpose piece comes in, huh?
yeah, and that's really been my experience over the past 15 years of practicing. I've been able to work with so many different people, and I'm so blessed and so grateful to be part of their stories and to help shape the stories of their lives. So there are many commonalities between my patients and myself, and between all of us really as human beings. And I fell in love, and I have 2 beautiful children, and I live in the Santa Monica Mountains on a hillside, and
Gorgeous.
very, very close to the ocean. And my life has expanded farther than I could ever imagine.
So I have one quick question that I'll ask before we close. And so your time with Flynn and Beatrice was roughly 6 or 7 months of your life, but like you said, it was a dense amount of experience. And so your family now, you kind of look over the grounds that you used to walk upon, I guess. And is there anything that you learned from Beatrice and Flynn that you bring into your current family? Is there anytime that you are in a situation with your family and something from that memory comes back? And if it is, would you share?
I think that there was always a lot of laughter
Mm,
and always a lot of levity in my friendship with Flynn and my relationship with Beatrice. They were just people who enjoyed the present of their lives and found humor in things. And I really try and bring that into my own family. I also bring that from my own mother. My own mother was very funny, and I feel like laughter is some of the best medicine that we can all take. And so I try and infuse my family with that as much as I can.
and I'm so glad you decided to tell this story. Now help me with the titles again real quick, that because we talked about two different books.
The
Maybe
first book about Flynn and Beatrice and myself is called Lost in Ghost Town.
Awesome Ghost Town.
And the second book about the addictions that we all share on an archetypal level is called We Are All Addicts.
You're all addicts, and that'll be just recently released when this episode comes out. And you guys tune into yesterday's episode. It's fantastic. It's an amazing story, and we look for this to be on film or in television.
Thank you.
I can,
Fingers crossed.
yeah. Thank you, Carter.